Watkins here. Let's see if we get everything up and running. So a little behind the curve today. We had a lot going on out there. So yeah, obviously the markets are still tumultuous and still having a lot of troubles out there. But we did get a little bit of news. The thing that came across the wires today that I saw was basically Ukraine said we're willing to do some diplomatic talks and try to make peace or basically have some talks. So that spiked the market this morning, and we're seeing that. And so we're going to talk about that and see, is this the thing that is going to light the short covering rally on fire, and is the market going to go up? So we'll be looking into this a little bit and see any other kind of names that's going on there. That being said, the market is still rough. It's still going down. A lot of names are still trending down. And so if you guys are interested in learning on how to actually short the market or how to make sure you can see this, I do have a class that we just wrapped up a couple weeks ago about this. And so you come over here to profitpilot.com, and that's where you can get the class about learning how to short. And then also, because maybe you're not always interested about shorting stuff, I did also put in a lot of information about how to find relatively strong stocks for when the market's ready to go back up. So I show you how to look for relative strength. And that way you can start building a watch list about good names that are going to take off whenever the market's done doing its correction and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, let's see. Hey guys, yeah, welcome to Joko. Good to see you guys. Oh, and also we are starting to launch Moxie on TradingView. So I know a lot of you guys have been asking about that. It's been a big deal trying to get it through. We are now in the final stages of getting that thing ready. We're going to be sending emails out, I think, Friday. So if you have Moxie on Thinkorswim, you can get it on TradingView for free since you already own it. If you guys are interested in picking it up for the first time ever, then you can buy it on for TradingView through Simpler. So yes, we now have it ready, and we're going to be starting to ship it out. So that'll be pretty good and exciting. Teresa, good to see you. Yeah, the Hoko Njoka, huh? A trader or traitor? Yeah. So that's the other thing with oil. Yeah, so with oil being very, very sensitive to what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, the kind of good news that came out today about more diplomatic talks seem to have knock oil down a little bit. So I'll go look in that also. But I've also been just saying to my subscribers and our team, like, look, yeah, oil has been a big mover. Same with grains and fertilizers and agriculture stuff. I mean, there have been certain sectors that have really been big movers, but they're so big that they're starting to get really extended, and we're seeing the same thing with gold. So let's kind of go through here and talk about a few things. We've been knowing that the market has kind of been getting oversold, like it's been pretty far down. If we look here on the, kind of get that resituated on the daily chart, one of the things that I was looking for, that's I need a line there. Oops, no, I need to, there we go. Okay. So what I was looking for is the last time that the S&P had a big move down like this, you can see it went there, kind of put in a bottom, popped up, and then chopped sideways, and then popped up again into the daily 50. This last time, going into about 2 Thursdays ago, when the actual news of war came out and we got that big gap down open like that, that's what we were looking at. I was looking at that as a very similar situation. You can see then there was the bottom, the low that was put in, and we had price pop up like this, and I was expecting to go sideways and then move back up to the daily 50. Very, very similar patterns. But more war news came out about the nuclear plant that caught on fire since they were shelling it, all that kind of stuff. And so it just got real heavy again and came all the way back down here. So now that this has happened, the thing I've been communicating to subscribers and traders out there is that we might be in this double bottom area. And that is the question, of course. That's the $1,000,000 question right now. Is this double bottom going to hold? And are we actually going to see a legitimate move to the upside? Are we going to see a big short covering rally? Since so much is already geared to the short side, are we going to see this thing kind of light off and move to the upside? We need to be careful about that and think about it. And if it does, is this going to be the thing that takes us back up to the daily 50 or beyond? That's one of the things that I'm looking at. Now, it won't just happen in one day. It's probably going to take several days, if not a few weeks, in order to do something like this. Or or is the what I always say is a double bottom only works when it works. Otherwise, it's a resting place until price goes lower. Because what's happening is all these people right here, with that since prices come down here, everybody's looking left, right? Correct? They're looking left and they're saying, well, this was the last place that price bounced. So obviously it was some support. And if it was support before, is it going to be support again? And that's basically the definition of a double bottom. And so that's why there's a battle going on here between traders and news and anything else that's going on. They're trying to figure out, is this low going to hold from before? And is this double bottom actually going to work? And if it does, then price goes up. And if it doesn't, then this thing's going to just chop around until it goes lower. And that's something that we need to be aware of, because let me just show you, I think, ARKK, if I'm going to pick on that for a little bit, there have been situations to where the double bottom didn't hold and it kept going lower. So, or maybe temporarily it held. We could see something like this. There was a bit of a double bottom. You get a bounce up and then it rolled over, right? And you can see here there was a double bottom. It bounced and then it came into that support area again, but then continued to go down. So this is really the area that we're in, is that we need to figure out, is the market going to hold its double bottom and move up? Or is this really just kind of one of these things where, maybe it doesn't fall apart right now, but it kind of just flags up into resistance and then rolls over. I've been looking at the IWM, trying to also determine that, because part of the reason I look at this on the daily chart, it really doesn't look super strong. This does not look like something that's just going to suddenly pop up like that. Not since last time where I was looking at price over the hourly 50. But, we have the double bottom, maybe even triple bottom. Maybe that's strong, maybe that's not. Maybe it's going to be hammering out something to where it's just going to do this and go lower. This could just be a bear flag into that downtrending daily 50. The hourly 200 is still in a downtrend. Price is still underneath what appears to be a downtrending hourly 50. So, not that IWM is going to lead the way, but we do need most of the indexes to be on board with wherever we're going to be going. So if the market, if the S&P and the Nasdaq are going to go up, we would be expecting that the IWM is probably going to go up, and that's what we're trying to determine. The Dow, kind of the same situation as the rest of the indexes. That yeah, there's a double bottom. Yeah, we do have some positive divergence, but is this going to go someplace? It's hard to tell right now. It's not super clear. And I've been looking at the UVXY. And, maybe one way to think about this too is that despite that news, right now that's just news. It's like, we're willing to talk. Okay, so that's progress. Maybe they're going to have a ceasefire for a little bit while they talk, but we don't know how those talks are going to go. We don't know if they're going to be productive. Maybe they're going to go nowhere. Maybe they're going to be real bad and they continue fight. So I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of a muted response. Like, we're not seeing a rip-roaring rally. We're seeing a bounce, and we're kind of just hanging out. So we don't know what's going on. This is really, really still just very preliminary, and you guys need to just kind of keep that in mind. So yeah, and then Austin, I was looking at this too. Now remember, the UVXY is kind of its own beast. It'll do whatever it wants to do, and I have been looking at this, that it's been running right now up into the underside of a downtrending daily 50. So I was a little off on my timing because I was looking at this as a double top, and I thought in through here, I thought that's where price was going to go down, but instead it needed to push. It needed to push a little bit more, and keeping an eye out, because yeah, if it does this, and if the markets do decide to go up, then we should see the UVXY go back down to the daily 50, which would make the SPY. What that would mean is that would mean the SPY could then maybe come up to the daily 50. But we're going to have to keep watching that and seeing. And as I said, is it going to be because of this double bottom? It's hard to say right now. And as I was saying just a minute ago, it's we're kind of getting a bit of a muted response right now. But that fire can it can be muted and calm and slow, but then kind of like a wild forest fire, it builds on itself and it can just get going. We kind of saw that with the last time, last Thursday when price was down. Look how long it went sideways right there, and then it just exploded. So the kindling kind of has to get lit, and then traders who are short need to look at that and be like, oh crap, this is not going down. I better get out. And then they just realize that instead of it rolling over even further, like, oh no, this is holding. Uh-oh, that's not good. Oh, it's going back up. Uh-oh. And now need to get out. Plus there are buyers coming in. And so that's what kicks off a short covering rally like that. So that's what I'm looking at here, saying, is this going to be getting lit on fire, or is this a muted response? And it's just kind of tough to tell right now. We're just going to have to kind of wait and watch and let this thing go through for a while. All right, so if we get to oil, see, so USO, I'll show you a couple of tickers that I've been looking at. Let me actually switch over to here. So we got the weekly, we got the daily, and we got the hourly. So whether it's commodities, oil, gold, your famous tech stock, like, it doesn't matter. When you see that things are really starting to go just vertical like this, exponential, just parabolic, they don't tend to last too long. They'll go and it'll be a fun time. But at some point, traders, smart traders out there look at this and be like, that's a little too far. That's too risky. The risk to reward is not there. I'm not going to be buying way, way, way up here. If anything, I'm going to be selling. I'm going to start cashing in. So it can last for a while, but at some point it starts getting just ridiculous and really, really overbought. And the good traders are not going to be stepping in and buying this because it's too high. They're going to be selling to other people who think this thing's going to keep going forever. And then we come out with the news about Ukraine and Russia saying, okay, we're willing to talk a little bit. And so the beginning of maybe peace, or the beginning of the end of the wars, whatever kind of that stuff like that. You're like, oh, well, maybe things won't get that bad and maybe things will get back to normal. Well, there you go. That's kind of the news. Not only were oil prices super high, but the news got less bad. And so there you go. You sell into that. And so that's what's going on with oil. So we got USO right there. XLE pulled back a fair amount, but again, they were super, super overbought. I mean, we are outside of these third ATRs. We're at the daily third ATR. I mean, these things have just gone vertical like that. So a little bit too crazy. And then XOP, another one that we're kind of looking at. You can see it's been just up there. It's pulling back today. It came up here, just not super oversold on that time frame, but it did get to the third ATR, and it was a little bit oversold on the daily chart. So we're seeing that. And then what? CVX, another name. Like, look how high these things are. Who's willing to buy it right here? That's really the question you got to be asking yourself. Like, okay, this thing has been pushing. It's been really doing quite well. It's outside of that third ATR, but then it's just hockey stick. Exuberance top, blow off top, hockey stick, parabolic, gone vertical. Whatever you want to call it. At some point, they're going to pull back, and the question really is, like, how far of a pullback is it going to be before it goes up again, or is this it? That's always the question that we have to figure out. So CVX is kind of like that. I'm just trying to think of some other names I know. SM, they were kind of moving up, pulled back. APA, another name that was up and pulled back. There's just all sorts of stuff. I think even WTI, I think this one had a really big pullback. These things just got excessive, and now they're pulling back pretty hard. And you can see here, WTI right there got way outside of that weekly third ATR. They just don't last that long up there. Yeah, so then let's get into gold. So GLD, Rod will take a look at that. Now GLD, I will say, did you guys notice the double top right there? I put a line on it. That way, because I'm looking at that like, double top, usually that's some natural resistance, and we got price way outside of that third ATR. And look at this. Just yesterday, gold up in no man's land. It is way, way, way up there. So, and also there was a lot of volume. You got to think about the big funds, the big firms, the smart traders out there. They look at the volume. It was the largest volume on a major peak day, or I guess that was a week. Here we go. The day. There you go. It was the largest volume right there on a peak day. Probably a lot of smart people who had gold were selling. News or whatever drives price up there. They're going to take that. They're going to say, thank you, market. I'm going to be selling. And so I think when you see a lot of volume at a very high peak like that, a lot of times that means it's the end of the run because the big money is selling out. So that's gold, pulled back quite a bit. GDX, same kind of deal. Came up here, and with GDX, it's going to do its thing in relation to gold, but look, it also came in right here into some resistance. There's a lot of activity there. There's a top there, and oh, look, we're right there too. So, and then on the weekly chart, it went outside the weekly 30 ATR. On the daily, it was just vertical. It had up, it pulled back a little bit and up like that, and that's it. So now it's pulling back. I probably wouldn't be long on something like this anymore. I think that was a really, really great run. And I would say, let's wait for the next opportunity. Yeah. And then GFI was another stock that we were in. And then I got shaken out, so I'm a little bothered by this one that I wasn't able to participate on this one. But look, number one, would you be buying this right here? If you guys, you've been around the market a little bit, would you be buying this? I would not. That is an outer space. That is way outside of that 30 ATR on the weekly chart. It's gone vertical. I mean, this has had a really, really great run. Do you think that there's much more left? Would you be willing to buy it? So if anything, I'd be looking at this and saying, yeah, I want to be cashing in. Now maybe I'll keep some on and I'll keep seeing where it goes, and I'll wait for an actual exit or confirmation that this thing doesn't want to go higher. But for the most part, I'd be just saying, wow, that was a great move. Thank you. And I'd be taking my profits on it. So that's kind of where I'm at on stuff like that. And then we also saw the steel CLF, they were about a day ahead of some of the other commodities as far as pulling back. You can see CLF, same deal. Look, it got really, really overbought. There's a big gap between price and the 8 EMA on the daily chart. It got outside of that 30 ATR on the daily chart, and there was a huge gap between price and the hourly 50. At some point, it's going to pull back. So the real question, I think, is, will this keep going? Is this a pullback into support, and is the trend here to stay, and is it going to keep moving up? I don't know that answer right now. I would be careful because a lot of this stuff was news driven based on the war. And if peace talks come out and if everything kind of gets back online, then these things might not really need to keep going up because maybe everything's going to get back on track. But if there's still going to be supply shortages, if the conflict is still going on, then sure, maybe these things can keep trending. But we're going to have to look for that proper entry as far as that pullback and into support and see where it's going to keep going. So just a lot of mixed stuff out there because we've had a lot of crazy moves based on the news and the war, and we're kind of at the mercy of what that's doing. So if you want to play in this arena, just understand things are going to be quick and they're going to be fast and they're going to be moving big, and you need to be careful out there. Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, just be careful out there. And then just as a fun thing, because I know, so Reddit and Wall Street Bets, they've been tracking politicians and basically been making trades following politicians and what they've been doing, because kind of the idea is that, well, if a politician is investing in something, then they must know something because they probably have inside information, or they can make rules and laws that are going to be benefiting that something. So I did hear the other day that Chelsea Clinton bought 100,000 shares, which I think came out to about $250,000 worth of Clove. So I'm not pushing this thing. I don't own it yet. I'm just kind of watching it, but I thought just as a fun thing to talk about as far as, where the politicians put their money. I do understand that she's on the board of Clove, so that might be a thing. Maybe it's like, hey, if you're going to be on the board, you might as well, put your money where your mouth is. If you work for the company and you think this company is going to go someplace, well, then put money into the company. So that could also just be a thing. She may not necessarily know anything. She's just on the board, and she's like, well, I have faith in the company. I think over time it will go up. So kind of a fun thing. It looks like other people have figured out that that news came out, because you could see that there's some big volume spikes in through here, and of course, yeah, price went up. So it would be interesting if Chelsea Clinton was able to time the low on Clove. So another one just kind of put out there. Yeah, let me know what you guys are looking at. Start throwing out some tickers for me and see where we're going to be going around. I want to see if what you guys are looking at, if there's anything that I'm not noticing. So, Anders, if we're looking at cat, there's been a lot of talk between cat and deer and all that, part of the agricultural space. I've been, Caterpillar and cat cat and deer tend to trade in a similar fashion because they kind of are similar. But and I've been noticing that Caterpillar has not been doing very well. Deer has been doing better, but I'm wondering if cat is kind of ahead of the curve as far as not doing well, and if it would eventually bring deer down also. So just kind of keep that in mind about how they might relate to each other. And the only thing that I've been saying about Caterpillar is that yes, there was a fairly big move right here, right through here. Yeah, there was a move. If you can catch that, great. You know, if you saw that coming, if you could trade it on the 15-minute time frame, great. But at this point, just like gold, just like the metals, just whatever, this thing looks pretty high. It's way up here. It's up here at the third ATR. It is also right coming into the underside of the weekly 50. This is typically a place that I would expect price to reverse. So if you're bullish on cat, I would be looking at this as saying, I would cash in. I would start taking some profits off because it looks like it's going to pull back. And the problem with a pullback in this situation is we don't know if it's going to be a pullback into support and it's going to go higher, or if it's going to be a pullback that's going to keep being a pullback that's going to keep going lower. So I would that's where I'm at with that one. I think this is about time for it to reverse, and then I would say we need to look later and see if this is going to go higher. I'm a little bit cautious about that, mostly because we do have price underneath what looks to be kind of this beginning of a downtrending weekly 50. And if you look at the daily chart, we have the daily 50 underneath the daily 200, so that's technically bearish, and the daily 200 is in a downtrend. So this doesn't look like the greatest thing to be trying to buy going long-term long. And then if we look at this as from deer, it has been doing better, but I've also been telling people like, I really would just be staying away from this because boy, this thing's choppy and it's really not going anywhere. I mean, look at what has deer done and what has cat done in the last year. Like it's kind of gone nowhere in a year. So the only way that you could be making money from something like this is if you're able to do some of the intraday trades. If you can catch a quick swing trade like that, great. If you can catch a trade like that, great. But if you think you're buying deer because it's going to start going up because of the agriculture thing, I don't see it yet. I don't see it yet. It hasn't gone anywhere for a long time, and your money would just be sitting around. So you're going to have to be very nimble if you're going to be trading deer or cat. Yeah, so RTX. So Michael, as far as that stuff goes, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, yeah, General Dynamics, you know, with the whole war situation, yeah, some of those names, yeah, they really shot through the roof and should have been a little bit quicker on some of these things, thinking like, oh yeah, we're getting into a war, let's go look at defense names, right? That being said, they haven't had a ton of follow through, and you know, it's not like these companies are suddenly going to go make a whole bunch more money because of this war. And what if this war is really short? You know, this may not last a year or 2 years to where they're like, oh yeah, we really need to start cranking out some production, and they're going to buy it. No, it kind of sounds like they're just doing business as normal. They've been selling their stuff, and you know, this is really just kind of a more a news related thing. Oh, war? Yeah, defensive companies. You know, companies that make weapons. Okay, so it might be just a trade the news type situation. That being said, they are in uptrends. They do look pretty good. You can see Raytheon here has held the daily 50. Looks like it might be coming down to the daily 50 again. The 200 is in an uptrend. You know, everything does seem like it's in an uptrend. So you'll have to see how long that lasts and if it can keep going. So generally, it looks fine. It's been bumping along the daily 50. If it can keep doing that, great. Same thing with LMT. You know, bigger move on this one. But for the most part, you know, they haven't really been going anywhere either. This is really just news. And if the news will continue and if the charts will continue, then great. But they also got really extended. Like Lockheed Martin, just like gold. I mean, it's up there. I would not be buying it up here. I'd be cashing in on some of this stuff in expectation that it's most likely going to pull back. And if the pullback is good, then we can add more. But this thing is very, very extended. And I would just be looking at that. Yeah, local no joke. I mean, you're nailing it. So everything you're saying there, that makes total sense. I'm with you on that. EOG, boy, EOG keeps getting talked about a lot. I don't know if it's something specific about EOG. My basic concern, yeah, my basic concern with some of this stuff is again, think about it, it's news driven. It is based on the war situation. That can change in a heartbeat. So these things are going up because of that. And if anything changes, they might go down because of that, which is kind of what we're seeing right now. And it's a little bit rough to be buying it right here at the weekly 30 ATR. I would prefer a little bit, this would be a better place to have bought. You can see it pulled back into the weekly 21. If you were quick, maybe something like that into the daily 50. But at this point, I don't know. It seems like it's a little bit overextended and overbought. And it looks to me like it's probably going to chill out for a little bit. And if we look at the rest of the oil industry, it's kind of the same thing. They're really, really overbought. And it seems like just maybe now is not the right opportunity to get into there. LNG, obviously they've had great moves, but is now the time to buy? Maybe not. I'd be looking at probably a pullback of some sort or a flag. If we look at UNG, this one looks to me like it's been trying to get past its weekly 200 right there. It might need to kind of pull back, get a little head of steam, and then move up. That's a possibility. And on the daily chart, I've been tinkering with the idea that UNG might actually need to tap the daily 50 again, for a second time. And obviously right now you can see it's just been very volatile and through here and hasn't quite done anything. So unless you're catching a 1, 2, 3 day trade, this hasn't quite broken out. And I think the major issue is that it can't quite get past its weekly 200. And that's what I've been watching. Then let's see, other Michael. So CVS, yeah, I was kind of actually looking at CVS as a short, mostly because I think the whole COVID situation is over, or at least definitely winding down. And let me see here. The other situation is if you look at the monthly chart, there is a giant gap between price and the monthly 10, so it's overbought. It's outside of the third ATR, so it's overbought. And it is right here at its previous all-time high, which is probably going to be some good natural resistance, right? Just a major, major double top. So that being said, if CVS has gone up because of COVID and because of COVID testing and all this kind of stuff, and if that's kind of going away, like I got tested last week and twice, and because I had to go see my parents and family and stuff like that. The place I got tested at, there was nobody in line, and every time slot for every day for any day was available. Like not many people are getting tested anymore. And so it seems to me, yeah, maybe the theme behind CVS is kind of going away. So, Michael, I do think you're probably onto something about CVS starting to wear out and go down. How easily will it go down? We don't know, but I would be thinking that I think CVS has probably had its day, and I wouldn't be looking bullish on CVS. So if you want to be looking bearish, yeah, you're probably not wrong about that. So, Loco no Joko, the chat room that I'm in every day is the Moxie Trader chat room. So that's what we call them masteries, but basically it's my own room. It's my own class. It's where I communicate, put out a lot of alerts. I teach, I do videos, all that kind of stuff. And you can find that through profitpilot.com, or you can go to simplertrading.com and you just look up my Moxie indicator mastery. So it's my own trading room. And so won't oil go up, causing gold to go up also? Rod, I think right now, those things, oil going up does not necessarily mean gold is going up. Usually those are two different things. The only reason they're both going up right now is because of the war. We're looking at defensive plays, which is gold, precious metals, silver. And then we're also looking at Russia, which is an oil supplier, and oil prices going up because of the conflict. And so that's why oil is going up. They don't normally go up together. They're usually two different things for two different reasons. We're just in a special time right now. That is something we need to understand. We're in a special time with what's going on out there in the world. And then the VIX, I did talk about the UVXY. Nathan, if we look at the VIX, it is, yeah, it's been building. Look at this thing. It's been definitely cranking. Now, the only thing I've been wondering is this last move over the last 2 weeks has kind of looked a little bit shaky, up, down, up, down, up, down. And the Moxie indicator has been looking a little bit shaky. So when this is done and I close this down, go look at the recording and go look at what I said about UVXY. And, I would generally be thinking that I think this is getting a little bit overplayed, and I would be looking for a pullback in the VIX, which means I'd be looking for a bullish move on the SPY. Maybe this good news is going to be part of that, but we're just going to have to wait and see how that goes. and if it's going to actually work. But I feel like, there's a lot of people on the short side. A lot of people keep thinking the market's going to keep going down and really fall apart. But what if it doesn't? And what if we get less bad news from the war? It could spark a short covering rally. So keep that in mind. All right, guys. As I said, one more time, we do have the Moxie indicator on TradingView now. So if you have it, if you have Moxie on Thinkorswim, you can get it on TradingView for free. If you would like it on TradingView for the first time, then just email us and come pick it up. So we're going to be rolling that out in the next couple days. Very excited because a lot of people have been asking about it. All right, everyone. I will